Chapter 1. The Price of Duty and the Weight of Chains. In the sprawling metropolis of Varela Prime, where towering crystal spires carved jagged silhouettes against the burnt orange sky, Elara Theres stood cloaked in silks that shimmered like liquid starlight, a living jewel amidst the galaxy's elite. The great hall of the Theres estate was a cathedral of opulence, its walls adorned with iridescent tapestries woven from the rarest threads harvested from distant moons, each telling the story of her noble lineage, a lineage steeped in power, duty, and sacrifice. Her every breath was measured, every step choreographed for a ritual older than the stars themselves, where the fate of houses and entire worlds balanced precariously on the fragile bond of marriage. Tonight was the culmination of years of preparation, a grand spectacle to bind two worlds by the cold chains of politics and survival. But beneath the layers of ceremonial grandeur, Elara's heart was a tempest of despair and loneliness. She was a prisoner gilded by duty, her dreams dissolved in the harsh light of obligation, sold to a human from Earth, a planet spoken of in whispers and mistrust. The arrangement had been sealed long before Elara's first memory, a treaty brokered between her father, Lord Theres, and the human envoy, a man named Marcus Drake, whose reputation preceded him like a shadow cast across the galaxy. Earth was a world unknown to most Varelans, a planet where humans clung stubbornly to old traditions amidst their sprawling cities of glass and steel. To Elara's people, humans were unpredictable and wild, their survival hardened by a history of wars and isolation, making them equal parts fascination and fear. The treaty promised peace and mutual prosperity, but at a cost only the bride would truly understand. Elara's marriage was a transaction, her future bargained like a commodity to secure the fragile alliance between her people and the human coalition. She was the price paid in a game where love was irrelevant and hearts were expendable. The Great Hall was a spectacle of light and sound as dignitaries from dozens of star systems gathered in ornate attire, their faces masks of expectation and calculated interest. Elara's parents watched from a dais above, their expressions a mixture of pride and cold calculation. She was presented to the assembly as the perfect noblewoman poised, graceful, the epitome of her house's legacy. Her eyes, however, betrayed the truth. They shimmered with unshed tears and the weight of unspoken pleas. When Marcus entered, the room seemed to hush. His tall frame, clad in a sleek uniform marked by Earth's insignia, moved with a quiet confidence. His eyes deep, steady, an ocean of blue that defied the coldness around him locked with Elara's for a fleeting moment. In that instant, something fragile stirred within her, a flicker of warmth amid the frozen corridors of duty. Yet, the moment was shattered by the thunderous applause of the crowd, a reminder that they were actors in a drama scripted by power, not affection. The ceremony unfolded like a dream she wished to escape. Vows exchanged in archaic tongues, hands bound by ceremonial cords laced with nanofilaments designed to track and enforce loyalty. The marriage was not just a union of two souls, but a pact of politics, law, and surveillance. As the final words were spoken, Elara felt the invisible chains tighten, a bond that would tether her not to love but to obligation, her fate entwined with a man she barely knew and a future uncertain. The crowd's cheers echoed in her ears, yet all she could hear was the pounding of her own heart, fractured and uncertain. In the privacy of the bridal chambers, far from the watchful eyes of nobles and diplomats, Elara allowed herself a moment of vulnerability. The walls, adorned with cold crystalline panels reflecting the starlight, felt like a prison. She stared at the intricate patterns of the traditional gown she wore, symbols of her house's strength and sacrifice, and wondered if strength could be found in surrender. Her fingers trembled as she reached for a small, faded hollow portrait tucked beneath her pillow, an image of a childhood friend lost to the endless demands of duty, a life sacrificed on the altar of politics. Tears finally spilled, tracing silent rivers down her cheeks. She was a princess bound by laws older than the stars, her heart a prisoner in a game where freedom was the ultimate cost. The knock on the door was soft but insistent. Marcus's voice, when he spoke her name, was low and steady, tinged with something that Elara could not yet name: curiosity, perhaps, or something deeper buried beneath layers of duty and expectation. He entered with a cautious respect, his presence filling the room with a calm she hadn't expected. Their conversation was halting, bridged by formalities and tentative questions. Marcus revealed glimpses of his own life years spent navigating the harsh realities of Earth's divided societies, a past marked by loss and resilience. In his eyes, Alara saw reflections of her own pain and isolation, a mirror to the loneliness that often accompanied power. For the first time since her betrothal was announced, a fragile connection blossomed, a silent promise that perhaps, beneath the armor of politics and obligation, two broken souls might find solace. Yet, as dawn broke over Varela Prime, painting the cityscape in hues of fire and gold, Alara's heart remained tethered to uncertainty. She was still a prisoner of fate, bound by chains forged in alliances she did not choose. But within those chains flickered a spark kindled by the unexpected warmth in Marcus's eyes, a promise that love, even born from duty, could heal the deepest fractures. The path ahead was treacherous, shadowed by duty and danger, but for the first time, Alara dared to imagine a future where her heart might beat free. The sun dipped low behind the jagged skyline of Varela Prime, casting long shadows that stretched like fingers over the polished floors of the Theres estate. Alara stood by the grand window of her chambers, the light catching the delicate weave of her ceremonial robes, their silver threads shimmering faintly like distant stars. Outside, the city thrummed with life hovercars gliding silently above, towering spires glowing softly as night approached. Yet within the sanctuary of her room, Alara felt a suffocating stillness, a weight pressing upon her chest that no amount of wealth or status could alleviate. Her heart, though hidden beneath the poised facade demanded by nobility, was breaking under the pressure of impending destiny. The arranged marriage to Marcus Drake was more than a union. It was a bond forged in the fires of necessity and cold diplomacy. To her family, it was a vital alliance, a chance to secure their power and influence amid a galaxy shifting with political unrest. To Alara, it was a sentence one that stripped her of choice, of freedom, of the very essence of what it meant to live and love. The days leading to the ceremony were filled with rehearsals, endless formalities, and the hushed murmurs of courtiers speculating on the strange human she was to wed. The stories about Earth painted its inhabitants as rugged, unpredictable survivors, their culture a tangled web of contradictions and resilience. Alara's heart recoiled at the thought of binding her life to a stranger from such a distant world, yet she steeled herself, for resistance was not an option in her world. The evening of the ceremony arrived with a silent grandeur. The great hall was transformed into a spectacle of light and sound, the architecture of Varela Prime lending itself to ethereal beauty. Crystal chandeliers floated suspended by unseen forces, casting prismatic rainbows that danced across the assembled dignitaries. Alara's entrance was met with admiration and envy alike. She was the perfect bride, her every movement a testament to the grace demanded by her station. Yet, as the ceremony commenced, Alara's thoughts drifted, trapped between the ritual's grandeur and the cold reality of the man standing before her. Marcus was everything her world expected, tall, composed, and commanding. His uniform, a stark contrast of Earth's practical military design against the ornate elegance surrounding them, bore the insignia of the coalition of Terran systems. When his eyes met hers, calm, piercing, and unflinchingly honest, Alara felt a jolt of something she had not anticipated. Curiosity, a fleeting warmth, a crack in the icy shell of her despair. For a moment, the political machinations faded, leaving two souls standing on the precipice of a new and uncertain future. The vows echoed through the hall, words laden with promises of loyalty and unity, but Alara's heart whispered a quiet rebellion. When the ceremonial bonds were sealed, nanofilaments weaving their unbreakable embrace around their wrists, she realized that her life had irrevocably changed. The crowd's cheers rose like a tide, yet Alara stood still, a fragile figure caught between worlds, her spirit yearning for freedom even as duty chained her to an unknown destiny. Chapter 2. Shadows of Doubt and Glimmers of Hope. The days following the wedding were cloaked in a strange haze, a blend of unfamiliar rituals and guarded exchanges that left Alara feeling adrift. Marcus, though reserved, showed a quiet patience that both puzzled and intrigued her. Their conversations were careful, each word weighed and measured beneath the watchful eyes of their respective entourages. Yet behind the formalities, Alara sensed a sincerity in him, a willingness to understand a world so different from his own, and perhaps to forge something genuine from their union. Despite the political tightrope they walked, small moments of genuine connection began to emerge. Marcus shared stories of Earth's sprawling cities and natural wonders, of a planet scarred yet beautiful, shaped by conflict and hope. Alara, in turn, revealed glimpses of her childhood, the burdens of nobility, and the loneliness that had shadowed her since birth. Their worlds, though galaxies apart, found echoes in shared longing and silent dreams. But shadows lingered. The alliance was fragile, and enemies both seen and unseen plotted to unravel it. Alara's closest advisors whispered warnings of dissent within her own house, of factions unwilling to accept a union with a human. On Marcus's side, skepticism and prejudice brewed among the coalition's elite, casting doubt on the strength of this fragile bond. Trust was scarce, and every gesture was scrutinized through lenses of suspicion. Amidst the turmoil, Alara grappled with her own fears and desires. The chains of duty still bound her, but the eyes of the human beside her sparked a fragile hope, a possibility that beneath the weight of politics, a different future awaited. One where hearts could heal and love might bloom, even in the unlikeliest of places. The days following their union unfolded like a delicate dance, choreographed by obligation yet shadowed by uncertainty. In the polished halls of the Theres estate, Alara found herself navigating the invisible currents of power and expectation with a grace that belied the turmoil within. Each morning brought rehearsed smiles, carefully measured words, and the ever-present scrutiny of courtiers and advisors whose loyalty was as fragile as glass. Marcus, too, played his part with quiet resolve, a stranger to these rituals but unwilling to let their marriage become merely a political arrangement. Between the weighty discussions of treaties and alliances, moments of unguarded conversation began to surface, like faint stars emerging through the haze of dusk. Their dialogues were tentative explorations into each other's worlds. Marcus spoke of Earth's vast oceans, of rain that cleansed rather than scoured, and cities alive with the hum of diversity and innovation. His voice, low and steady, carried the weight of experience shaped by struggle and survival. Alara listened, captivated not just by the stories but by the man who shared them, his vulnerability veiled beneath a veneer of strength. She, in turn, unveiled fragments of her own life. A childhood confined within gilded walls, the relentless pressure to uphold her family's honor, and the loneliness that had been her constant companion. In these exchanges, the walls built by duty and fear began to crumble, revealing the fragile human beneath. Yet the path was far from smooth. Alara's family and their political allies watched with wary eyes, their smiles often thin masks hiding disapproval or outright hostility. Whispers in shadowed corridors spoke of betrayal, of the dangers in uniting with a human whose customs and values were foreign, unpredictable. Marcus faced his own trial skepticism from the coalition's command, prejudice rooted in centuries of interstellar conflict, and the pressure to prove that he was worthy of this alliance. Trust, once scarce, became the most precious and fragile currency between them. Amidst the swirling intrigues, Alara grappled with a storm within herself. The chains of her past and the obligations of her birth threatened to suffocate the tentative hope blossoming in her heart. The man beside her was no longer a symbol of duty but a beacon of possibility, someone who looked beyond the surface to see the woman she longed to be. Their shared moments, quiet conversations beneath the stars, a touch lingering longer than politeness dictated, a glance that spoke volumes were threads weaving a tapestry of connection strong enough to defy the forces that sought to divide them. One evening, as a cool breeze swept through the estate's gardens, Alara and Marcus found themselves alone beneath a sky scattered with unfamiliar constellations. The world around them faded into silence, and the weight of their roles lifted, if only briefly. Marcus reached for her hand, his touch warm and steady, grounding her amidst the chaos. "I don't know what the future holds," he murmured, "but I want to face it with you not as a contract, but as partners." Alara's breath caught, the sincerity in his voice unraveling years of fear and doubt. For the first time, she allowed herself to imagine a future where her heart was not shackled by duty but free to choose. But even as hope stirred, the shadows grew deeper. Secret messages intercepted, subtle moves by rival houses, and whispers of rebellion warned of the storm gathering beyond their fragile sanctuary. The price of their union was steep, and the forces arrayed against them were relentless. Alara and Marcus stood at a crossroads not just of their own destinies, but of the fate of their worlds. Together, they resolved to face whatever came with courage and unity, knowing that only by trusting each other could they overcome the chains of the past and forge a new path, one where broken hearts might heal and love could transcend the boundaries of star systems. The tension surrounding their marriage was a constant shadow, weaving itself into every conversation, every gathering, every glance exchanged in the ornate halls of the Theres estate. Alara felt the weight of 1,000 expectations pressing down on her shoulders, expectations not just to be a dutiful bride, but to be the linchpin of a fragile peace between her people and the human coalition. Yet amid the endless formalities, whispered rumors, and veiled threats, something unexpected took root. The human beside her, Marcus, was no longer just a stranger, no longer a symbol of political expediency. In his steady gaze, she found a hint of understanding, a glimpse of kindness, and most dangerously, a spark of something deeper. Marcus himself struggled with the gulf between their worlds. Raised amid Earth's sprawling cities and complex social fabrics, he was no stranger to hardship or loneliness. Yet the customs of Varela Prime, so steeped in ceremony and rigid hierarchy, were a foreign maze. Still, he navigated it with patience and respect, learning to read the subtle cues of a court where words often masked sharper intentions. Over shared meals and quiet moments stolen from prying eyes, Marcus sought to bridge the distance, not just between their cultures, but between their hearts. He listened as Alara spoke, sometimes hesitantly, sometimes with quiet defiance of her dreams and fears. In turn, he shared tales of Earth's resilience and its own struggles for unity and hope. But the alliance was fragile. Not everyone welcomed their union. Power brokers within Alara's own family whispered dissent, uneasy with the human influence growing in their midst. On Marcus's side, some questioned his choice, suspicious of alien customs and wary of the potential consequences. These undercurrents of distrust manifested in subtle slights and veiled warnings, reminders that their path was fraught with peril. Alara's every step was watched, every word dissected, Marcus's every move scrutinized. Together, they faced not only external threats but the daunting task of building trust where suspicion had long reigned. One night, in the privacy of a quiet garden bathed in the soft glow of bioluminescent flora, Alara and Marcus found solace. The air was fragrant with alien blossoms, and the stars above whispered of possibilities. Marcus reached for her hand, his touch gentle yet unwavering. "We may be bound by duty, but we don't have to be prisoners of it," he said softly. "If we stand together, we can change the story written for us." Alara looked into his eyes, those deep, honest eyes that had become an anchor amidst the storm, and felt her heart stir with a fragile hope. For the first time, she dared to believe that love could bloom where only obligation had been expected. Yet, their fragile peace was shattered when news arrived of a conspiracy. A faction within Varela Prime's ruling council plotted to undermine the alliance, threatening to ignite conflict that could engulf entire systems. Alara and Marcus were thrust into a web of intrigue and danger, forced to navigate betrayal and shifting loyalties. The true test of their bond was no longer a matter of hearts, but of survival and leadership. Chapter 3: Rising Together Amidst Shadows. The dawn of their new reality was harsh and unforgiving. Alara and Marcus found themselves united not only by marriage, but by the crucible of crisis. Their shared mission was clear: to protect the fragile alliance, and to confront the conspirators who sought to unravel the peace their union symbolized. In the towering chambers of the ruling council, debates flared, alliances shifted, and every word spoken carried the weight of potential war or lasting harmony. Together, They strategized, combining Alera's intimate knowledge of Varela's political landscape with Marcus's tactical acumen honed through years of Earth's military service. Their partnership, once born of necessity, grew into a formidable alliance, inspiring those around them. Yet beneath the surface, dangers lurked. Spies infiltrated their ranks, rumors fanned flames of distrust, and the threat of assassination loomed like a specter. Amidst this turmoil, moments of quiet resilience sustained them. Late nights spent planning, stolen glances in crowded halls, and rare, genuine laughter amidst the chaos forged a deeper bond. Alera discovered strength in Marcus's unwavering support. Marcus found solace in Alera's fierce determination. Their union became a beacon proof that love and duty need not be adversaries, but could coexist, shaping a new path forward. But the shadows grew darker. The conspirators launched a bold strike, aiming to fracture the alliance through deceit and violence. Alera and Marcus faced their gravest challenge, yet one that would test not only their leadership, but the very foundation of their trust. The corridors of power within Varela Prime's ruling council were a labyrinth of whispered alliances and veiled threats, where every word was a weapon and every glance a challenge. Alera and Marcus navigated this perilous terrain with a careful blend of grace and resolve, their united front both a beacon of hope and a target for those who sought to undermine their fragile peace. As their days filled with endless meetings, strategic discussions, and delicate negotiations, the weight of their shared responsibility settled heavily upon their shoulders. They knew that the conspiracy was no mere whisper, it was a looming tempest that threatened to engulf their worlds in chaos. The conspirators, a clandestine faction composed of influential nobles and disgruntled military officers, wove their web with precision. Their aim was clear: to fracture the alliance by sowing distrust between the human coalition and Varela Prime's ruling houses, to dismantle the union that Alera and Marcus embodied, and to seize power in the ensuing upheaval. False accusations, forged documents, and carefully planted spies tested the limits of Alera's and Marcus's patience and judgment. Every step forward was met with resistance, every ally's loyalty questioned. Yet, amidst the turmoil, the couple's bond only grew stronger, their shared resolve a shield against the encroaching darkness. One evening, as the twin moons cast pale light over the cityscape, Alera and Marcus convened with their closest confidants in a secure chamber beneath the estate. The air was thick with tension, the stakes higher than ever. Plans were drawn, contingencies prepared, and roles assigned in a desperate bid to outmaneuver the conspirators. Marcus's military experience proved invaluable, his strategic mind weaving scenarios that balanced offense with defense, while Alera's deep understanding of Varela's politics allowed them to anticipate the moves of their adversaries. Together, they forged a path through uncertainty, their unity inspiring loyalty among those who believed in their cause. But the threat was not only political. Attempts on their lives shattered the illusion of safety within the walls they once considered sanctuary. Shadows moved with deadly intent, and trust became a scarce commodity. In the quiet moments between danger, Alera and Marcus found solace in each other's presence, a hand held in the dark, a whispered reassurance, a promise that no matter the trials ahead, they faced them as one. Their relationship, once born of necessity and duty, blossomed into a partnership of equals, bound by love, respect, and shared sacrifice. The conspirators' climax came in a bold, violent coup aimed at seizing control of the city's central command and discrediting the human Varelan alliance. Alerted by loyalists within their ranks, Alera and Marcus led a counterstrike, rallying their supporters in a desperate battle that spilled into the streets and the grand halls alike. Energy blasts and the clash of blades echoed through the city as the struggle for the future unfolded in a blaze of courage and chaos. Lysara's spirit echoed silently in Alera's resolve, the strength to rise even when broken. Victory was hard-won, but the conspirators were defeated, their power broken and scattered. The alliance stood, strengthened by the trials endured and the bonds forged in fire. As dawn broke over Varela Prime, painting the sky with hues of hope and renewal, Alera and Marcus stood side by side, ready to lead their people into a new era, one where love and duty coexisted, where hearts once broken could heal, and where their united eyes saw not chains but endless possibilities. Despite the bloodied victory, the aftermath of the coup left the city teetering on the edge of uncertainty. Alara and Marcus stood in the council chamber, the weight of leadership pressing heavily upon them. They were no longer just pawns of political convenience, but symbols of resilience and hope to a fractured society. The scars left by betrayal ran deep, and healing required more than just the defeat of enemies. It demanded unity, trust, and vision. Their every decision was scrutinized, every alliance re-examined under the cold light of survival. The night following the upheaval, Alara found herself on the balcony overlooking the city's glowing skyline, the twin moons casting silver light over the streets below. Marcus joined her silently, his presence steady and comforting. Words were unnecessary. Their shared gaze spoke volumes. It promised that whatever shadows remained, they would face them together. It was in these moments that Alara truly saw the man behind the uniform, the human whose eyes held kindness, strength, and an unyielding dedication not just to duty, but to her. Their bond, forged in fire and tempered by trials, became the foundation upon which a new future was built. Together, they began to weave a tapestry of peace and progress, reaching out to rival houses and former adversaries with offers of reconciliation. The galaxy watched as two worlds, once wary and divided, joined hands in a fragile but growing harmony. Alara and Marcus's marriage was no longer a symbol of sacrifice, but a beacon of possibility. Chapter 4: Beyond Chains, into Freedom. The months that followed were a whirlwind of rebuilding, reform, and renewal. The Theres estate transformed from a bastion of tradition into a center of innovation and dialogue. Alara emerged not just as a noblewoman bound by marriage, but as a leader with a vision, one that embraced change while honoring heritage. Marcus stood beside her, a partner and equal, their shared journey inspiring others to believe in the power of unity over division. In the gardens where they once sought solace, plans were made for schools, marketplaces, and forums where voices from across the galaxy could be heard. Alara's eyes sparkled with newfound hope as she walked these paths, not as a captive of fate, but as a creator of destiny. The chains that once bound her heart were broken, replaced by bonds forged in trust and love. One evening, under a sky ablaze with stars, Marcus took Alara's hand and led her to a quiet overlook. "Look at what we've built," he said softly. "Not just peace, but freedom to choose, to love, to dream." Alara smiled, her heart full. "It began when I looked into your eyes," she whispered. "When I saw not a stranger, but a man willing to stand beside me." Their story, born from sacrifice and shaped by courage, became a legend told across star systems, a testament to the strength found not in chains, but in connection. Together, they stepped into the future, not as prisoners of duty, but as architects of a new era where love transcended worlds and hearts once broken found their way home. In the wake of transformation, Varela Prime blossomed into a beacon of hope, a living testament to what courage and unity could achieve even against insurmountable odds. The once rigid and somber halls of power now echoed with lively debates and the laughter of those daring to dream of a better future. Alara and Marcus, no longer merely symbols of a political alliance, had become true partners, leaders who balanced tradition with innovation, strength with compassion. Their story inspired change not just on their homeworld, but rippled across star systems hungry for peace and understanding. Alara's days were filled with the joy and challenge of rebuilding not only cities and institutions, but trust among disparate peoples long divided by fear and prejudice. She worked tirelessly to create forums where voices previously silenced could be heard, where cultures might blend and grow together without losing their unique colors. Marcus, drawing on his Earth-honed experience, helped forge coalitions that bridged millennia-old rivalries, blending military precision with diplomacy to protect the fragile peace they had won. Amid their relentless efforts, moments of quiet intimacy reminded them both of their personal journey, the improbable path from strangers forced together by circumstance to lovers united by choice. One evening, beneath the expansive sky dotted with unfamiliar constellations, Marcus took Alara's hands in his, their fingers entwining with a familiarity born from shared battles and whispered dreams. "We've come so far," he murmured, "and yet, I feel this is only the beginning." Alara smiled, her eyes reflecting the star's glow. It began with a glance, a moment that shattered chains and opened a new world. Their love, once fragile and tentative, had grown resilient and radiant, a light to guide not only their own future, but the destiny of countless others. The alliance between human and Varellan, born of sacrifice and hardened by trial, had blossomed into a new legacy, a legacy where hearts healed, where bonds forged in hope transcended the cold calculations of power. As the twin moons rose over Varela Prime, bathing the world in silver light, Alara and Marcus stood together atop the highest terrace of the Theres estate. The city below thrived, alive with the promise of tomorrow. Together, they gazed out, not as prisoners of their past, but as architects of a future where love and freedom reigned. Their journey marked by broken hearts, unyielding courage, and the transformative power of connection had become a testament to the enduring strength of the human spirit across the vastness of the stars. And so, with hands clasped and hearts united, they stepped into that future bound not by chains, but by choice, hope, and the endless possibility of a new dawn. The silver light of the twin moons bathed Varela Prime in a tranquil glow as Alara and Marcus stood side by side on the highest terrace of the Theres estate. Below them, the city pulsed with new life, a vibrant mosaic of cultures, ideas, and hopes that had blossomed from the seeds they had planted together. Their journey, once marked by chains of duty and hearts fractured by sacrifice, had transformed into a shared legacy of resilience, unity, and love. Alara turned to Marcus, her eyes shining with a profound warmth that transcended words. "When I looked into your eyes," she whispered, "I saw more than a stranger or a symbol. I saw a partner, someone who chose to stand with me, not because of obligation, but because of love." Marcus smiled, his hand gently cupping her cheek. "And in that moment, I knew our future wasn't written by others. We would write it ourselves." Their marriage, once a transaction of power, had become a union of equals, forging a path toward peace that inspired not only their people, but resonated across the stars. Together, they dismantled the barriers of fear and prejudice, proving that even in the vastness of the galaxy, hearts broken by circumstance could heal and grow stronger. As the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, painting the sky with hues of gold and rose, Alara and Marcus faced the future not as prisoners of duty, but as architects of a new era. The chains that once bound them were replaced by bonds of trust, hope, and enduring love. Their story echoed through generations as a testament to the transformative power of compassion and choice, a reminder that sometimes the most profound freedom comes not from breaking chains, but from choosing to love beyond them.